So we're now going to look at where the positioning for your handles needs to go. So I'm going to unpin the facing pattern from the main body. The width of this grab handle strap from here to here is a gap of 18 centimetres. So it means you could even get like your arm into that and it could go on your shoulder if you wanted. And then we've also got this lovely long handle. So this one could be like a crossbody strap, and this potentially is a grab handle or a shoulder handle. So we're going to mark that onto the pattern. So we're going to use your biro and the pattern master again. And from that centre front line, I'm going to mark a little dot out at 9 centimetres at each side. Again, if you're using your ruler, go ahead and use your ruler to measure that. And then what we're going to do is start to cut and prep all your handles. So the grab handle on the top is going to be 40 centimetres long and 3 centimetres wide. So what I'm going to draw on here on the actual pattern itself is a line where the 3 centimetre wide grab handle is going to sit. So it's 9 centimetres from the centre front and then 3 centimetres each side. So that's going to be where we insert your handle when we're sewing the facing to the main body, and the handle goes in the middle bit. And then what we're also going to mark is some little dots of where the holes need to go for this lovely long handle that goes through all the layers. So using the 90-degree line on the pattern master, dead centre of the 3 centimetres for the grab handle, we're going to mark a little dot down at 5 centimetres, please. So the 90-degree line's going along the top edge of my bag and you're coming down 5 centimetres. And if any of you are using just the ruler, you could always also additionally measure from the centre line, and it's out 10.5 each side of the centre line. And then same vibe on the other side, we're going to be coming from the side seam edge out 5 centimetres, doing a little dot. And also from 5 centimetres down from that seam allowance line down, please. And I sometimes do that as well, give it a little cross right in the centre so I know exactly where those holes are going to go. So same vibe here, it's 5 there, just double check it coming down from the top. Go down a little bit more. So in the end, the very top edge of your bag, it's going to be going through the actual outer leather and the inside facing. We're going to be punching some really lovely, great big holes for your handles to go through, and then it concertinas up. So that's the pattern all prepped and ready. And now we're going to talk about the handles themselves. So like I just mentioned, the grab handle one is 40 centimetres by 3 centimetres. And we're going to have a double layer of leather here. So look for all the remaining sort of scraps that you've got. I've got quite a very handy bit here that's actually just over 40, so we know it's ample length. And hopefully we're going to be able to get, at least 2 of these out. And we're going to need 4 in total, in the sense that we're gluing 2 together. So you've got nice leather on both sides, and we need a grab handle on each side of your bag. So I'm just going to not even use a pattern, just go for drawing it with your pattern master or your ruler. So 40 centimetres long and 3 centimetres wide, please. So again, same vibe, I'm actually going to be cutting off the biro line. So that's those 2 done. And then we're just going to briefly talk through, I will then repeat that with the teal, but we'll show you that a bit later. What we're now going to do is the long strap. So the long strap is actually 2 meters and 20, which is quite a long length. And we're going to do it 4.5 centimeters wide. And what we'll be doing with this is actually triple turning it and then stitching along. So again, just go with as many of the scraps that you can find with the longer lengths as possible. And you're going to try your best to avoid any of these seams. So if you can, you're just going to do loads and loads of like little lengths with a 45-degree angle in them. So 4.5 centimetre wide, and then the 45-degree angle, you're going to cut like this, so that then when you actually put them all together, we end up distributing the bulk of the seam, because it can get really chunky in the seam if you have the seams going just sort of straight along the seam and triple folding it over. So what we'll end up doing is having numerous ones all connected, and then when we fold it, as you can see, that seam line gets distributed so that there's not too much bulk. So it'll probably take a little bit of time, but persevere, and you want 2 meters and 20 of those, please. The next stage we're going to be doing is bonding the fusing onto the back of the facing pieces, and also, if you needed it, to have done it on the grab handles. So the way I sort of decipher with the handles whether I need it is if you sort of hold both layers together and give it a little stretch. If it does stretch quite a lot, which you can see this one is, I would recommend just putting a single layer of fusing. Or, you know, if you guys don't have fusing, you could always cut just a really narrow bit of cotton, something that just doesn't have any stretch to it, to really stabilise the handle. So I do have the fusing, so I've cut it so that it is 39 centimetres long, so half a centimetre smaller each length and narrower. So in terms of the depth of the fusing, I've done that 2.5. because our handle is 3. So it just gives you a couple of mils each side to prevent it from hanging over the edge. So what we're going to do is sticky side down, that goes onto, I'm going to put it onto the black side. Now that's going to be the top edge of my handle. So I want you to put it onto the top layer of your handle. And if you are using the copy decks to do it, if you don't have the fusing, you're just going to be smothering your cotton with the copy decks and then sticking it down to the leather. But we're going to be using a lovely hot iron, and what's really important when you're doing the fusing is to make sure you've got no water in your iron, because the water doesn't actually penetrate through the leather, so it'll end up going kind of just a bit soggy, and we don't really want that. So nice hot iron, and it should, you might want to just test out your leather prior to putting your iron on it, but it should not affect it at all, shouldn't shrink it, shouldn't anything. So just work your way all the way along the fusing, making sure that you don't burn your hands, you know, keep your hands away. And then once it's cooled off, so maybe do it for like 20 seconds or something, however long I just did it then, just test the corners, but make sure that it is nice and cooled off. And sometimes you might find it just lifting a little bit in the corner, so you can just go back over it again with the iron. So you're going to repeat that for your other handle as well, so that'll be the fusing on that one. And then what we're doing is the facing. So these are all your lovely 4 prepped facing panels, and that's your fusing that we cut earlier. Remembering that this one is going to go bang smack in the middle, so you've got that nice even border of 12 millimeters smaller than the outside leather. And again, same vibe, just pop the iron straight on it. If you've got a seam, like this one has a little seam, you're just going to work with the tip of the iron just around that seam, just to make sure that the fusing is properly bonded everywhere. And what you'll see now is it's so nice and stable. See, that's not going to stretch at all. And this is really important because this is where we're actually going to have the holes for the concertina long crossbody strap. So it's really important that the facing's nice and stable, and that's your lovely handle, so that's really stable too. And you're just going to repeat exactly the same on all those other panels. So this is the really fun bit when all the bag starts to come together. So to start with, we're going to do the grab handle. So we're going to be gluing that together in their pairs. So we're going to be using the Copydex glue, which is a wonderful glue on the underneath of the leather. It loves a little bit of texture. If any of you have got like an impact glue or leather cement, things like that, you can get impact glue just from like most DIY shops. But Copydex is absolutely amazing on the underneath of the leather. So if you've got that, let's do it. So we're going to take off the top. Now you want to be careful with this because it is a raw edge on this handle. So you don't actually want the glue to seep out of the edge. And I'm going to be putting the glue onto the black one with the fusing. So if you make sure that your glue goes onto the fused handle. And be quite generous with the glue, but don't let it seep out the edge. That's the kind of goal. So providing you've worked quite quickly and the glue is still quite white, hasn't dried off and gone a bit clearer, then you'll be absolutely fine to just team together the other side of the handle with this one. But if any of you have gone a little bit slower, that's totally fine, but I would recommend putting glue onto this one. But we've gone quite fast, we should be all good. And then what you want to do is just really carefully match it. If any of you have found that the cutting wasn't quite, 100% accurate, that's totally fine, don't worry. We can just trim it down now in a minute. So if you flip it over, what you'll see is I can very, very slightly see that there's a bit of pen. And I really don't want that to show because we're going to have this completely visible in the bag. So just with a pair of scissors, if you just really carefully trim off like literally just a millimetre all the way along the edge, what that will really do is help the leather to have a perfectly cut edge, because you'll have both layers would have been cut together. Plus it just means you've got rid of any of the little pen marks and stuff as well. So we'll be all good. And just go all the way along. Don't just take off a tiny little bit of the leather in one area. So I'm going to go all the way along this side as well. And you don't want to take off much because we're going to be folding this handle in half and stitching it together where the grab handle bit is. So you want it to be as close to 3 centimetres as possible. And then you can go just across the ends as well. And then that's the first one all done. So we're going to repeat exactly the same thing on the other side.